Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Wow, we have 130 people in the chat. Welcome. We're so excited to have you here for the first session of Leland's College Application Bootcamp. While you're settling in, I want to encourage you to scan the QR code on the screen. It'll take you directly to Leland's coaching website where you can see and check out all the amazing coaches and programs we have to help you break into your dream school. We'll give a few minutes for everyone to settle in and to make sure we have a packed house, and then I'll hand it over to John. So let's take a couple of minutes to scan the QR code and see what's behind there.
Great. We'll also drop it in the chat. We can get going because we're a couple minutes in. This is great. Thank you, Tunde.
Yeah.
Tunde is also a student at Stanford right now. So we're really happy to have him. He's going to be the host that you will see at all the boot camp sessions. He's interning for Leland right now. We're super excited to have him on the team and helping with this boot camp. You also get a lot of emails from him and updates. So he knows what he's talking about. He made it to Stanford, and yeah, excited to hear from him. We have an awesome agenda tonight. I'm John. I'll introduce myself. I'm the CEO of Leland and wanted to kind of kick off the boot camp with a topic that's close to my heart, which is recommendations. Partially because I think I was the most nervous about recommendations. I don't know if anyone, maybe if you let me know in the chat, if anyone else is nervous about what your teachers are going to write about you or other recommenders. Maybe it's just like the control freak in me, but I wanted to control my whole application and didn't know how to get the best out of my recommenders. And so I'm excited to talk about how you can do that tonight. But before we do that, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of Leland. I know some of you are already working with coaches, a lot of you actually, but some of you are probably finding out about us for the first time. We are the one-stop shop to help you apply to the most competitive jobs and schools in the world. And we do that through matching you with a coach who fits your budget, fits your background and goals. We have coaches at all different price points. We have former admissions officers at Harvard, like Devery, who's going to teach the next session. So definitely come to that. And we also have students and recent grads who are a little bit more affordable, but still trained and vetted. So yeah, and then we also do live cohort-based courses and like this, and we have a massive content library that we'll share with you as well. Our goal is to make it easier to get access to the world's experts to help you, reach your goals. So very excited to do this boot camp as kind of an effort there. Every year we help tens of thousands of people break into elite schools and career opportunities. And we've grown tremendously in the last few years. And so very excited to bring this to you and hope that you get a lot of value from this over the next few weeks. As I mentioned, we help people apply to college. We help you with test scores. So if you're taking the ACT, SAT, we help you find internships. We help you apply to job interviews. We help you apply to master's programs. So basically like the full stack service to help you get help with whatever you need, and do that through an amazing network of about 1,000 coaches that are kind of come from all different backgrounds. So yeah, that's kind of the quick overview of Leland. To give you a quick overview of the boot camp, we have 4 sessions that we're super excited about, including I mentioned the next session, Devery, who's going to teach about kind of foundations of the application, resume, application strategy, activities, a lot of the things that you need to think about as you're applying. She was a former admissions officer at Harvard, has been doing professional admissions coaching for a long time, and is definitely one of the most popular coaches we see. We also have Skylar, who was a former admissions officer at University of Chicago and at Northwestern. So he's also an expert and is going to be teaching on different topics related to essays. So we have a packed lineup. We're super excited to bring this to you and hope that you'll join us for the future sessions as well. We will follow up with links to that and pre-work for that. So this is all free just to give you the help that you need. Of course, we encourage you to reach out to these people and work with them one-on-one because that's where you'll get a lot of the personalized help. But we'll get you a lot of information up front as well. So my background, before I started Leland, I went to Stanford and worked at a bunch of companies like LinkedIn, Uber, a startup called Curated, and have been helping thousands of people apply to their top schools every year for a long time. So I've lived and breathed this stuff for a while and excited to share my experience with you, both at Stanford and in helping lots of other people apply to top schools. My goal is to get texts or emails from you like this that say, hey, I just got into Harvard, I got into Cornell, I got into Columbia. That's the best part of the job. And I hope we can be a small part in your journey. Okay, we were doing this a little bit when we were getting started, but if you don't mind, would love to hear where you're dialing in from, and what your dream school is. This is such an exciting time in your lives. I hope you guys all know this. You're probably stressed, nervous, excited, but it is such a fun time to be going to college, applying to college, and it's life changing, right? Where you go to school is often who you become friends with. We'll just let this trickle in the chat. So I met my wife in college, so it's definitely important. So yeah, drop in the chat where you're dialing in from. We got people from Nepal, interested in Stanford, DC, dream school is Harvard, or I don't know, we lost it in the chat. Canada, NYC and NYU, staying local, Nevada, getting into Rice. Awesome. All over the place. Canada, NYU, Princeton. That's great. We have actually a former admissions officer from Princeton on Leland. She's great. Lots of great folks. Um, Cool. And I think a lot of you have scheduled time with our team to help you find the right coach. So you'll have that calendar link on your calendar. We'll also drop it in the chat so that you can, if you haven't scheduled that strategy call with us, we can get you set up with a coach. All right. You guys ready to dive into recommendations? Is anyone else nervous about recommendations, or are you all feeling like you're experts in this topic? We'll see. We'll see if anyone's feeling nervous about recommendations, or if you're feeling like you're already so. All right, so. Got mine. Want to make sure I did it right. Kind of good. I trust my teachers. Okay, great. Well, we'll see if this lines up with some things that you did. So just to give you a quick overview of the process, you will select recommenders. We're going to make progress a little bit on that tonight. Ideally, you will prepare your recommenders a little packet that kind of tells them what to expect in the recommendation process, gives them some things to talk about you so they do a good job. I know some of you that maybe already talked to your recommenders might be wondering if this is required, or if you maybe you didn't do this, but it is super valuable to give them some information about you. Ideally, you give that packet to the recommender, put their name in the system 4 to 6 weeks before they're due. They might only do it in one weekend, but it's nice to give them some notice, sometimes even a couple months notice, often because people pick teachers that they kind of pick the cool teachers, the ones that a lot of folks want to work with. And so you want to make sure that they do a good job. Once you put their name and email into the system, the Common App will notify them and will let you know once they submit. So they needed to submit before the deadline. And yeah, a lot of people are nervous about this process. Sometimes recommenders don't know about the process or what they should write to do a good job. So we're going to talk a little bit about all this stuff tonight. Feel free to drop questions in the chat as we go. We'll do our best. We have a team that's here to answer questions, so feel free to drop your questions as we go. Want to make sure to get as many questions as we can. So let's talk about this Common App recommendation. You need a guidance counselor recommendation or like advisor. You need high school teacher recommendation, sometimes two. I think Stanford, you have to have two. This is a junior or senior year teacher who taught a core class. And then another recommendation, which is also sometimes optional, sometimes required. These are like, could be an arts teacher, it could be a coach, it could be someone you worked for, another peer, someone that can kind of speak to who you are and kind of make you shine in a different light than maybe a teacher can. So we're going to talk about kind of what to do here. So in terms of the actual like what the questions or what they're looking for from each, this actually comes from the Common App. So counselors, their job is to kind of provide a view of you within your class to make sure that they understand, all right, who is Tunde in his graduating class? Is he a leader? Is he someone that has, contributed on at the school in some way? Kind of helps you stand out according to your peers. Your teacher is obviously looking at you in kind of the vantage point of the classroom, how you contribute to the class, what do you bring, what's your intellectual curiosity look like, are you responsible, do you encourage other viewpoints, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what they're looking for. To give you a sense for like the actual questions they're going to ask, so they ask you, how do you know the student and in what context do you know the student? They ask the recommender, what are the first words that come to your mind to describe the student? And then they kind of ask for the more general, like, help us understand what sets the student apart. We want kind of a broad assessment, encourage you to describe their personal characteristics, their academic characteristics, how have they performed, what are some of the obligations they have, positive, negative, problematic behaviors. So they're actually like, they want your teachers to kind of share the they want your teachers to share the truth about you and to kind of evaluate you. You're obviously asking your teacher to recommend you. So it's really important that you prepare them and you pick ones that actually really like you. We had a good question in the chat about what's different about Leland's coaching compared to other companies like Crimson. We actually have, so Devry has coached on Crimson. She's going to teach the next session. She's now coaching for Leland. So we have a lot of the best that have maybe come from Crimson. The reason they come to Leland is because they can charge you a lot less because our platform takes a lot less because we're a technology platform. So you end up getting usually much better coaches for a much lower price. And if any of you have talked to Crimson, you know how expensive it is. So let's talk through what your recommenders need to have. I think this is often, sometimes people will say, oh, I need to pick someone that's like, really important, or, maybe my other advisor is someone that like my mom or dad knows that is this, rich CEO person, and they're gonna be important, and it's the president of the United States or whatever. The reality is, like, they need to know you. And so don't just pick someone because you think they're important. And this, of course, is easier with teachers. Sometimes people try to pick someone fancy for the other recommender. You need to have a strong relationship with them. It's also nice if they have complementary perspectives on you and kind of talk about you in different lights. So, if your teacher's talking about how you contribute in the classroom, maybe your other recommender is talking about how you've contributed in an extracurricular activity. They need to be credible. So it can't just be, your mom, even though that would be nice, but it's not going to carry as much weight if it's not credible. It's helpful if they can share anecdotes and not just say things like, Tunde is so smart, he's a good leader, he's helpful, but actually say, in this experience, I noticed, specifically, Tunde reached out to a student and encouraged them to share their perspective. It was very inclusive, helping them understand actual anecdotes. And this is where, if you haven't had experiences with them, it's really hard for them to share those anecdotes that are actually really important. They need to be able to write a strong recommendation. Sometimes you guys, this, sometimes teachers or folks that maybe they're very direct, or maybe they're nervous about kind of vouching for you, or they want to be, they want to appear like buddy with their school, or they want to be careful of what they're writing. You really want someone that's going to write a strong recommendation for you and not just write an evaluation. This is super important. It's helpful if they talk about you relative to your peers too, right? These schools are evaluating you against everyone else. And so it's helpful if your teachers or your other recommender can talk about what your strengths are specific to you and specific to how you compare to those around you. And obviously, you want them to succeed. Those people in your life that when you encounter them, or when, the relationship you have with them is such that when you win, they personally feel like they're winning. And that's the perfect type of recommender. The teachers that you have in your mind that you'll probably come back and visit and talk to for years to come because they just care about you as a person. That is the exact type of person that you want. Okay, so let's talk through some example recommendations, just to kind of give you a feel for what good looks like here, because sometimes the differences are a little subtle. I know we're monitoring the chat. Thanks for answering these questions. We're going to try to get as many as you possibly can. Okay, it looks like we're getting these questions answered. Great. Okay. In the chat, let's just make sure that we're kind of on the same page. What do the best recommenders have? What are some of the elements that they have? You guys drop it in the chat. Perfect. Yes. Yes. And if you are some of you might be a junior in high school, this is great. You can start to build relationships. If you're a senior, you're kind of late to the game, but you can still build relationships and kind of stay on top of it. Bring them a plate of cookies when you go to ask them. And this is where, like, the recommender prep document will also set you apart. When they have 5 recommendations to write, and one of them comes with a document that makes their life really easy, then that's probably the one they'll pick to start. Okay, so there's a lot to think about with, like, what the role of the recommendation is and why it's important in the application. So, we've talked about some of these things, but it's really important for them to understand who is the person that shows up on their campus. You are not a walking resume. You're not a walking list of accomplishments. You are a human that's going to contribute to the campus in a very unique way. And that's going to make the campus experience special for everyone else. And so they really want to know the character that shows up on campus. Are you inclusive? Are you a good leader? Do you kind of bring out the best in others? They also have probably seen all these amazing accomplishments, but it's so valuable to hear from someone else that can kind of give that external, sometimes more objective assessment of your strengths and weaknesses in a way that helps kind of bring your whole application to life. They want to know how you are academically, who shows up in the classroom, and they want to know how you're different, right? The application game is it's tricky because the reality is so many of you are probably qualified to go to a top Ivy League school, but there's just not enough spots. And so they want to know who's different, like who's both exceptional and unique. And your job is to kind of prove that you are both of those things. It's not enough to just be great. It's important to be great and different in your own unique way. And many of you are probably sitting there thinking, how, I'm just like an average person. How am I supposed to be different? How am I supposed to differentiate from all these other amazing applicants? And the reality is, like, first of all, you are often a lot more unique than you think you are, right? So first is kind of recognizing you do have unique strengths. And the other thing is that what has happened to you may not be different from what's happened to lots of other people, but how you think about it and how you frame it to the admissions committee could be very different. So how that's changed you, how it's shaped your goals and your aspirations and your future, all of those things are unique to you and can make you stand out in the application process. And recommenders underscoring those things is really helpful. All right, so let's talk through kind of what do these great recommendations accomplish? Well, they highlight specific examples of excellence. They highlight you relative to your peers. They use claims like best. You're probably not the best student in the whole world, but you might be the best communicator. You might be the best at being responsible. You might be best at something specific, and it's helpful for them to highlight what that specific thing is, even if it's something small. It's helpful for them to highlight who your potential is and what they see in you, and the other students that they've sent to these amazing schools, and what you show that kind of reminds them of those other amazing students. Ideally, they say things that you might be uncomfortable saying about yourself because they are so strong. It's also helpful for them to establish credibility and then highlight your potential as a student, as a leader. So these are some of the things that are helpful to accomplish. I saw the question in the chat, what should you include in the Google Doc to send to your teacher about some info for letter of rec? We will cover this tonight, so stay tuned. Let's talk through some examples. I think this kind of helps to bring some of this stuff to life. So a good recommendation might say, Jessica has been a pleasure to have in class. She works hard, takes great notes, learns quickly, and is an example to her peers, right? Nothing seemed like there's anything wrong with that. But what might be better or even best is Jessica is the best student I've had in my 12 years of teaching high school. She has an unmatched level of intellectual curiosity that drives me to prepare more deeply for my lessons. Her questions and participation make me a better teacher and improve learning outcomes for the entire class. All right, it sounds like it just moves you. You're like, wow, this, you want them to feel like, wow, if we don't accept this person right now, we may not see someone like them again, right? And so I want to show you this just so you can understand how you might, if your teacher has a question about you or has a question about how to do a good job here. I know some of you mentioned that they may not know what to write. You can kind of help coach them along. Let's talk through another example. A good one might say, Tanner is a great student who excels in school and helps others feel included. He has the required study skills and leadership attributes to be successful in college. A better version of this is, Tanner is the most impactful student in the entire school. He is the only student I've ever seen who learned every freshman's name while leading the first year orientation. Tanner will be a vibrant addition to any student body and will excel in a college environment. The reason I really like this one, and I get that, like, not everyone's going to be claimed as the most impactful student in the entire school, but I do love the anecdote they shared that he's the only student I've ever seen who learned every freshman's name while leading the first year orientation. It's something very specific. It's a little anecdote, but it helps to bring them to life. And these are the types of anecdotes that you can share with your recommender in your recommender prep doc, right? You can remind them, do you remember when I memorized every, thing, every name, or I memorized every this or that, or I, went above and beyond in this specific way. And those anecdotes help to show them who is this student that's showing up on their campus. All right. let's go through a longer recommendation. And I want, if it's okay, for you to drop in the chat certain aspects that you really liked about this recommendation. And if even better, if you want to raise your hand, I can call on a couple of you and we can kind of talk through what stands out in this application as being valuable, or in this recommendation as being valuable. Dear Admissions Committee, it is a great pleasure to recommend Stacy for admission to your engineering program. She is one of the most exceptional students I have encountered in my 15 years of teaching. I taught Stacy in my 11th grade honors physics class and advised her in robotics club. I'm not surprised to find out she is now ranked at the top of an extraordinarily capable class of seniors. She has a keen interest in and talent for physics, math, and scientific inquiry. Her advanced skills and passion for the subject make her an ideal fit for your rigorous engineering program. Stacy is a perceptive, sharp, quick individual with a high aptitude for math and science. She is driven to understand how things work, whether they be the old computer hard drives in the school library or the forces that hold our universe together. Her final project in class was especially impressive, an investigation of frequency-dependent sound absorption, an idea that she said was sparked by not wanting to bother her parents with her hours of guitar practice at home. She's been a strong leader in robotics club, eager to share her knowledge with others and learn new skills. I have the students in the club prepare lessons and take turns leading our after-school meetings. When it was Stacy's turn, she showed up prepared with a fascinating lecture on lunar nautics and fun activities that got everyone moving and talking. She was our only student teacher to be met with much deserved applause at the end of her lesson. All right, this is half of it, but pause. Can we have Godfred, do you want to come off mute and share what you liked so far about this recommendation? Godfred, do you want to come off? If not, it's okay. All right. Okay, well, moving. Let's see. If you don't mind, yeah, I think Liza shared something in it that I really liked. One of the most exceptional in 15 years of teaching, gives a quantitative measure of how great Stacy is. Yeah. And then the example of the final project provides a concrete example. Exactly. Nice job, Liza. This is great. Yeah, the anecdote of the student club. Yeah, you can see these anecdotes. And one of the things I like about the anecdotes, and this is why we're talking about, I know you're not writing your recommendation, but this is why it's important. You need to understand what good looks like, because you can provide your recommenders with these anecdotes. For example, the guitar, right? The guitar was not something that the professor or the teacher had visibility into, right? She said an idea she said was sparked by not wanting to bother her parents with her hours of guitar practice at home. That's probably something that the student shared with her teacher in her recommender prep document, right? It's a little anecdote. This teacher may not even necessarily had like seen every single little thing that she did in robotics club, but she probably reminded this teacher of those things that she did. I think that's super valuable. Yeah, exactly. The specific anecdote or hours of guitar practice subtly gives away her love for instruments, her desire to work hard, right? Like this person is driven. Yeah, it's really valuable. These are great. Specific adjectives rather than, oh, she's so hardworking and smart. I liked how they specified memories about her and also what kind of impact she made, not on her teacher, but the community around her. Yeah, this is great. Okay, let's go to the second half. These are all really good insights, guys. Wow, this is impressive. Okay, let's finish the last part here. Okay. Oh, I need to hide floating menu. Okay. Stacy's personal strengths are as impressive as her intellectual accomplishments. She's an active, outgoing presence in class with a great sense of humor. Stacy's the perfect person to get the project rolling, also knows how to sit back and let others take the lead. Her cheerful nature and openness to feedback means she's always learning and growing as a learner, an impressive strength that will continue to serve her well in college and beyond. Stacy is just the kind of driven, engaging, and curious student that helped make our classroom a lively environment and a safe place to take intellectual risks. I love that. Safe place. Stacy has my highest recommendation for admission to your engineering program. She has demonstrated excellence in all that she puts her mind to, whether it's designing an experiment, collaborating with others, or teaching herself to play classical and electrical guitar. Stacy's endless curiosity combined with her willingness to take risks leads me to believe there will be no limit to her growth and achievements in college and beyond. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. Miss Randall. All right, what else did you guys like here? Love how personal it is. Yeah, how much Stacy stand out from others. I like that too. It's a great call. Love how the letter specifically said she had no limit. Yeah, totally. I think that's great. Yeah, it shows her potential, right? We talked about this. Um, perfect person to get the group project. Talks about her leadership, right? Leadership is so big and it's so hard to show leadership. Anything else? Okay, teacher was passionate about reaching out to the college and letting them know that they're her biggest supporter. Yeah, there's no doubt that the college is thinking, oh, is this person good? Is good enough? Like she's saying, literally message me if you have any questions. Like I will die on this hill. Um, yeah, it does suggest she has a lot more to say. That's true. She's able to teach herself. Nice, guys. This is great. You got smart people on this call. Uh, introverted students. Oh yeah, how to build relationships with teachers. Yeah, I think there's I think staying after or coming before class, I think those are obviously great ways coming to, asking to meet later if that's possible. Just coming up with kind of excuses to be more alone rather than just participatory in class. But sometimes that can be hard. Yeah, striking up a combo, asking how they're doing. These are great. Okay, we're gonna keep going, but these are all awesome. I'll let these kind of continue to flow. Um, I want to carve out time to make sure that we actually talk through things. Okay, so how to invite your recommenders. We're gonna talk through a few things. The first is to reach out early. And this doesn't necessarily mean that the first time you talk to them has to be the time that you ask them. What I usually like to recommend is that you talk to your recommenders early and say something along the lines of, hey, Miss, what was her name? I'm blanking on it. Hey, Miss Randall, uh, I'm applying to college this year, as you know. I'm still learning about the application process, but I wanted to see if you'd be open to writing a recommendation for me. Simple. You didn't ask her to do it. You just asked if she might be open to it. The reaction to that question will tell you so much about who you should ask. So if you're deciding between 3 or 4 or 5, or maybe you don't have that many options, but maybe you have a couple options, going in and having that conversation early. And if they say, "Oh yeah, are you sure I'm the right person?" Maybe they're not the right person. But if they say something like, "Yes, I would love to write your recommendation. Just let me know what you need from me." You can say, "Great. What I'm going to do is I will put together a little document to make your life easy, and I will come back to you in a few weeks with all the information to make everything easy." So at that point, she's kind of agreeing to it, but it's not something that she has to do immediately, and you're not doing it like a week before. And if you are a junior, talking to them early, this could be. I said 1 to 3 months. This would be more like when you're ready to actually write it. Ideally, you can talk to them, a year before and say, "Hey, I loved your class," or maybe talk about it in the spring of your junior year. "I loved your class. I'd really love you to write a recommendation for me to college," and you just kind of keep in touch with them. But when you're actually going to write it, I think 1 to 3 months before deadlines is usually a good idea. So yeah, I think this is, and then you come back to them with the actual conversation where you say, "Hey, I'd love to, I just wanted to confirm, I'd love to have you write my recommendation. I'm going to put your name into the system. Here's the document that kind of goes through some of the things I'm going to highlight in my application that you can kind of reinforce as my recommender." And then you can kind of just check in with them politely if they haven't put it in this, if they haven't done it yet. And this is especially important if you have a teacher that might have like 10 or 15 or 20 recommendations that they need to write. Eliza asked, "How do you keep in touch with them without it seeming like you're only keeping in contact because you want them to write your rec?" Um, this is a great question. I mean, I think the best way to keep in touch with them is always to figure out what matters to them and to come up with reasons to kind of, bring that up or make it, whether if they love history, they're a history teacher, they love math or whatever, or they love, bring in or send them an article and say, "Hey, saw this and thought about you." Or you can say, "Hey, you just come and ask them how they're doing and what's interesting to them, and just kind of check in with them and see how they're doing." Yeah, I think starting a convo and sneaking questions in, just trying to get to understand. But I think it goes back to just building the relationship, and building a friendship with them as much as you possibly can. These are good questions. Okay. We're going to spend some time actually building the prep document, and I'm going to give you guys some actual time and we can talk through what to include here. Before we do that, if you haven't already scheduled a call, you can do that here. We'll drop the link in the chat, bit.ly/common-app-coach. This helps us talk to you and kind of make a plan for you and making sure you get matched to the right coach, because we actually have about 1,000 coaches on Leland. We want to make sure that you find the perfect one for you, the schools you're applying to, your background, your budget, all that kind of thing. We can build these custom packages and plans. So we'll drop the link in the chat as well, but you can go to bit.ly/common-app-coach to make sure you schedule time. Sometimes some of you I think a lot of you, there were hundreds of you that already scheduled time with our team, but if you haven't already, make sure you do that. The Common App Comprehensive is a package that we have that a lot of people work with coaches, and it's very affordable as well. I can't underscore enough how important that this process is in your life. As I mentioned, it's where I got my job at LinkedIn. It's where I met my wife. It's where I've met many of my lifelong friends. So where you go to school matters. Make sure you do it right. Make sure you get an expert on your team to help you with, end-to-end coaching for the whole application, or even at the very least, make sure your essays are solid. Make sure your recommenders are well prepped. So yeah, you can schedule a call with our team, and we're happy to help you through it. Okay, let's talk about the recommender prep document. This is a very important step, and it's something that I know many of you we've been asking about, like, what does this look like? Someone asked if it's your senior year of college, is it available for a master's degree? Yeah, we do master's degrees all the time. So definitely reach out to our team. We can help you with master's degree coach matching too. So what does a recommender prep doc do? Well, it helps prepare them for what they should expect. It communicates important deadlines. It gives them examples from your experience with them and anecdotes, as we mentioned, the guitar, other things from the other example. It shows them how serious you're taking this process, right? If you're a teacher and you see a student come in and just say, hey, will you write my recommendation for me? I need to apply to college. It's very different than someone coming in good faith saying, hey, I'm applying to these schools. I'm really excited about this process, and I put together this prep document to make your life easy, and to make sure this process goes smoothly. I hope this helps. Like, imagine the difference in their minds of who cares about this more. They are going to write your recommendation. They're going to do a better job. They're going to care about it. It really, really matters. It also helps them understand, and it helps you coach them a little bit, because some of these teachers may not know, how to do a good job here. And so, kind of helps to draft them onto your team, helps control the process without actually writing it, because you don't want to write the recommendation for them. And it helps to jog their memory. They have a lot of students, so you're likely going to remember things about yourself and about your time with them that they might not remember. As teachers, they often have hundreds of students every year, so it's really helpful for you to kind of remind them. Anecdotes are extremely important to writing to the quality of the letter, because it helps them understand, it helps bring to life some of those qualities and habits. Instead of just being smart, it can be, you can call out specific things that kind of illustrated that you were smart. But instead of responsible, they can say, hey, they turn their homework in every day, and we're always well prepared, but they were always in their seat 5 minutes early. That brings it. So them visualizing you in your seat 5 minutes early is way better than saying you're always on time. Someone just messaged me about transfer admissions. Yes, we do also help with transfer admissions for those of you that are transfer students or international students. We do a lot of international, domestic, and transfer. Okay, let's talk about it. All right, for those of you who are at a computer or even a phone, go to this this link, bit.ly/recommenderprep.rec/prep/doc, and we're going to go through this. We had some good questions in the chat. Will the Leland team help you step by step on giving feedback on essays and supplemental essays? Yes, your Google Docs will be littered with comments, so make sure you get that help. Matters a lot. Other than teachers, are there any other examples of who could be great recommenders? Yeah, coaches, community members, neighbors, people that have visibility into anything that you've done kind of extracurricularly is usually the best. Usually it can't. Yeah, we'll let Amelia and other team members answer questions in the chat. All right, go to this. I will also drop this link in the chat. Oh, we got it. Nick dropped it in the chat. So go to rec prep doc. I'm going to pull it up on my end right now. Oh, okay. This is what it looks like. You are free. We got a lot of you in here. Okay, looks good. Make a copy of this. You can edit it, tear it up, do whatever you want with it. The goal is just to give you a template. So you can give them, kind of an overview of, well, just tell them thank you, right? Be gracious. Gracious goes, humility goes a long way. Um, Tell them you're thankful. Tell them if you're applying to any early action admissions programs, then include that there. You can also include, that you're applying to the Common App or other deadlines that are needed, depending on the schools that you're applying to. Um, and then I think, there's a few ways to go about this. You can include some specific attributes that you want to highlight, like leadership, academic achievement, growth, engagement, resilience, character. So these are some of the elements that that are included in the recommendation or that they're interested in. You can also just highlight, some specific stories or things that you think illustrate who you are, whatever would be most valuable to them to help them do a good job. If you remember, the question there, the biggest question they're being asked, they're actually being asked a couple questions, but what are the first words that come to your mind? You can even give them some of those words if you want. You can say, some of the words I want to highlight are leadership, inclusivity, that kind of thing. And then the second one is like, what differentiates you from others? So you can, one exercise that you'll sometimes do with your coach is actually make a list of like 5 traits that differentiate you from your peers. And so that can be a great way to kind of kickstart this process. And then what I like to do is I like to come up with 5 attributes that differentiate my clients. And then we come up with anecdotes that support, or examples that support those attributes, right? So let's talk about some of these potentials. And ideally, you've made a copy of it and you can start to fill this out for you specifically. And I'm going to give you guys some time in just a minute. So characteristics that you can highlight: initiative, proactively looking out for students who are struggling or engaging positively in the class. Ambition, desire to be your best self that drives you to plan, prepare, and execute. Preparedness, foreseeing potential concerns, thinking ahead, preparing so problems don't arise, or even just things like showing up on time, turning in homework on time. Problem solving, identifying creative solutions, and being flexible when things take an unexpected turn. Leadership and teamwork, ability to be a leader and teammate who can positively influence others. This is especially true of like teachers that have visibility into your how you work as a team or group projects. Teamwork matters a lot, right? These schools care a lot about how you're engaged. I'll drop I'll drop this full link, or let's see, I'll drop this full link in the chat right now. All right. There's the Google Doc. So it matters so much to them how you're going to engage with other classmates, that you're inclusive, that you bring people in, that you can work well as a team, that you can lift others up, those types of things. So anecdotes about how you engage in a group project. They might not know how you worked in a group project, right? Because maybe that group project happened outside of class. But those are anecdotes you can share with them, right? So you can share specific examples, like academic examples would be, difficult assignments, or, how you prepared for a test, how you worked as a group project. Extra guidance counselor or your other recommender could talk about extracurricular examples like sports, theater, clubs, debate, music, or other things that you've been involved in. So I'm going to pause and be quiet because I've talked to you guys a lot, and I want to make sure that you can actually start to work on this. So if you have questions about characteristics, or if you want to try out characteristics in the chat, drop them in the chat and we can talk about them. But I'm wondering if this is a good example or that a good example. Feel free to drop it in the chat. And I will be quiet for a minute and let you guys do that. Yeah, in the Google Doc, you can tap File, and then you can make a copy by coming in here, make a copy. Then you can work on it. You don't need to request edit access. Otherwise, we'd have everyone editing this one. And if you have questions, again, feel free to drop it in the chat about what might be good. I'll come back to some of these examples. I want to give you a few minutes to work. Yeah, good question. How could you turn your relationship with friends, making friends with everyone in the class and making the classroom environment more fun, into something a teacher can put in a rec? This is a great question. So this gets at kind of the core question of what are like traits that, what are maybe the up-leveled version of like being a good friend or building relationships? Why would schools care about that? So the first word that came to mind was inclusivity, bringing others in, especially others that may not feel like a part of the conversation, right? So I think inclusivity is a big one. The second one, I think, is how you work well with others, right? We've talked about this like life and really your career and school and everything. You need to work well with other people. And so actually like making it about being productive and building a team and kind of working together in a group project scenario, groups working well with others is another one. So inclusivity, working well with others. And if others people have ideas, you can drop it in the thread too. Would love to hear what people say. I think the last one is just about being a leader. Often good leaders are those that are good at connecting with lots of different types of people. And so I think that they can also spin it into a leadership angle. But that's a really good question, Eliza. If you have any other ideas, would love to hear it too. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of DMs about coaches. Definitely recommend working with one on your recommender prep doc. I don't have time, unfortunately, to read. I got a couple of DMs of the recommendations. I can't read everyone's, but definitely encourage you to reach out to coaches that can help you with that. The cost of coaching varies dramatically. We have some coaches that are really cheap and some coaches that are former admissions officers and a little bit more expensive because they're in such high demand. So we want to meet you where you're at. Let's see, what are considered what are some of the best ways to show leadership at school? I think so. One of the things we think a lot about, Michael, this is a good question, is, and one of our coaches always talks about this, there's kind of like a pyramid of participation. At the bottom, you have like you just showed up, you just participated, right? That's like the worst. Uh, the next level, you'd have like you not only participated, but you were a leader in maybe you were in charge of something, you led something, and that's much better. And then the next level, kind of the best, is that you initiated it. So not only did you lead, but you actually kickstarted it. You actually like created it out of nothing and willed it into existence. And so as you think about like good leadership opportunities, it's much worse for you to say, I was in the National Honor Society and I just went to an activity or something, than it is to say like I started this thing, even if it was at a smaller scale, and drove this type of impact. If I don't have many ways to show leadership and those characteristics, what would you recommend to do? I think especially if you don't have any great examples in kind of the activities you've been involved in, that's totally fine. I know a lot of you, I don't, the last thing I want is to scare you into thinking that every one of you has to be this amazing leader and impact person as a 16-year-old. I know everyone's coming at a different angle. So you can frame, a lot of this is framing, right? So leadership, good leaders can sometimes be quiet leaders. They can sometimes be behind the scenes leaders. They can sometimes be leader by example or leader by connecting with others, making others feel good. So I think that this is where kind of coming in, yeah, there will be a session talking about Common App. These are the recommendations in the Common App. So this is about the Common App. We are going to have two sessions on essays in the Common App. So that will be super valuable. And then the next session will be about foundations. But yeah, going back to the leadership, make sure that you show leadership not only in this like kind of grand in front of the class type of way, but also in the ways that maybe people don't always expect, right? Like reaching out to others, being inclusive, that kind of thing. So those are some of the other ways you can think about leadership. You guys are asking amazing questions. Definitely come to the next sessions. They're going to be really good, and we're going to have former admissions officers. I'm just a lowly student, or I guess alumni from Stanford. I'm not a former admissions officer, though I have helped a lot of people apply to school. Okay, let's keep moving, and we have a lot of questions in the chat, so maybe we can spend some time at the end going through some of these questions. Let's talk about, so we're done with the recommendation today. We can save some time for some questions because we still have about 10 minutes left. Make sure you go off and can finish your recommender prep documents and give those off to your recommenders. Invite your recommenders in the Common App, send them the doc, and make sure you find a coach for your application. It's not too late. Many of you I know have scheduled calls and have started to reach out to coaches. And then make sure you come to our next session with Devry, who is a former Harvard admissions officer. This is like top of the top, right? And she's going to talk about all the foundations of the application, how the admissions committee thinks about applications. It's going to be an amazing session. So definitely do not want to miss this. We will also, I'll save some time for questions. One of the questions I got DM'd was around like side letters to the admissions committee. This is tough because there's a lot of fancy alumni that are trying to send side emails or donations or whatever. And truly, unless the donation check is quite large, these schools just don't care anymore. So it's mostly important to just focus on doing the best you can in your application and applying to a broad range of schools that are both stretch and kind of target schools for you. So don't worry about that too much. These will be recorded. Obviously, you won't get your questions answered if you just watch the recording, but we will send out the recording. Okay, got a lot of questions coming in. And I would, I had a question that's just like, why do I need coaching? I think the biggest thing that so I didn't fully appreciate that what an admissions consultant could do for me. And so I tried to do it alone for the first little bit. And then I realized very quickly that I was going to be kind of in over my head. I think part of it was just in helping me prepare my recommenders, and knowing what they should highlight. And then all the essay stuff, like just littering my Google Docs that were not very well written. And by the way, ChatGPT is very easy to see through in these applications and will be very generic. It's literally trained on generic stuff. So make sure you get a coach that can kind of give you that differentiation and make sure you're really highlighting who you are. And honestly, the coach is also kind of meant to be a guide and just a checkpoint for you to make sure you're on track and kind of making progress towards the right things. Okay, keep the questions coming. These are great. Would it help if one of my teachers was from Princeton, but we aren't necessarily that close yet? And a lot of you, so this is for the folks. Is anyone in the chat? Maybe this drop in the chat. Is anyone, well, let's just do this. Drop in the chat what year in school you are. It's helpful for me to understand how many seniors and juniors. I know we have a lot of seniors here tonight, but we also, sounds like we have some 11th graders. Okay, a lot of 11th, a lot of 12. Okay, so great. For the 11th graders, it's definitely a good time to start working with a coach and kind of the early starters packages, and we can talk about that to even 10th grade. For those of you that are seniors, you're still kind of in the sweet spot of it's crunch time, but it is time to apply. If you are maybe junior or sophomore, this is a great time for you to think through who might be a good recommender in the future and just build that relationship with them throughout the year. So that when the time comes, it's a lot easier of an ask. And even if you're a senior, I think there's still time to build goodwill. This is great. Okay. How do we display leadership in class if there are no group projects? For constance, my teacher just teaches a lesson and allows us to do practice problems in the meantime. Yeah, this is tricky. So part of it, Faiza, could be you telling them in your recommender prep document that you have tried to help students outside of class, or that you've tried to build relationships to help people feel like they can do it, and kind of inspire them in different ways. It could be participation in class. Those are kind of the some of the things that you can do, but it kind of depends on how. I mean, I think I maybe would ask you, like, maybe what are the ways that you think you can show leadership, and try to do as many of those as you can. If you're a senior in college and want to apply, yeah, master's degree or jobs, happy to help. We have a lot of coaches that help with jobs and other things. 5 of the 6 core teachers left this year. That's a great question. Maybe one of our team members can kind of dig in on that one. Getting a lot of these other questions. If you don't have a lot of extracurriculars, what can you do to make it up? Well, one thing I will say is that you're not going to get accepted because you're perfect in every way. You're going to get accepted because you spike in a few areas that are really important. So I think what I would say is, instead of focusing on the things that you don't have, focus heavily on the things that you are great in. And that's where I would lean in with your recommenders. Like, okay, if you've spent a lot more time here, you're excellent there, definitely have them talk about those things rather than, the fact that you didn't, or try to like hustle. The other thing is, I guess you could get involved now and do as much as you can in the next few weeks, though I think that's obviously a little bit harder. Okay. As a junior, how do I know which teacher would be best? Develop a connection for a letter of recommendation. Should they be related to my major, like an economics teacher, for example? Yeah, so there are yeah, so I guess I don't know if you're in college or not, but I think that if you're in college and you're applying to master's degrees, it's a little bit different. And I think you probably, yeah, we can take that offline. But if you're a high school student, you do need to pick a teacher that is in a core class. And that's you can look that up online. I'm going to share a couple of resources that I found helpful as I was as I've helped folks in the past. The Common App has kind of a writing guide that you can give your counselor and your teacher. And I would actually encourage you to do that when you ask them to write a recommendation for you. Here's the writing guide. I just dropped it in the chat. Well, I'm also getting DM'd for the link to schedule a call with our team. If Amelia or Nick, could you drop the link to schedule a call with our team? A lot of folks wanting to get help with coaching. All right, I'm also gonna drop in the chat another link on that you can give them for writing effective letters of recommendation. This is going to help kind of coach them. So especially if they've never done this before, I would print out this recommendation file. This is provided by the Common App, so it's easy, and you can give this to them, and that will help kind of coach them generally. Your prep document will help them coach them related to you, of course. So that's going to be super valuable. Yeah, so the template, this is super important. Good question, Joshua. The template needs to be customized to you. So pick traits and qualities that you specifically have illustrated, not that are generic or even the ones that we included. You can kind of change it up. But the anecdotes and everything, those examples need to be tailored to you as much as possible, not generic. Okay. And if you do have specific questions, some of these can also be answered in you can do, by the way, you guys can do free intro calls with any coach on Leland. Free intro calls. You can schedule these. I would definitely encourage you to do that. Obviously, these intro calls are to see if you'd be a good fit for coaching. So we encourage you to talk with the coach that you want to work with. But you can do you can do calls with our team too to make sure that yeah, you're getting help with the right stuff. All right. All right. So I'm currently a high school junior and I've been thinking and I have a few teachers in mind for my letters of recommendation, but I've also been thinking about applying to a few programs that are going to take place in the summer before my senior year. Fall of my senior year would be okay if I asked the same teacher for both program recs as well as the Common App rec. Great question, Ashley. Yeah, yes, absolutely. And in many ways, it might make their life easier because you've already asked them for a recommendation. So I think it's a nice way for you to say, hey, I built a really good relationship with you. I'm applying to colleges. I'm also applying to these summer programs. I'd really love your help with a recommendation. And then once they do it, if it goes well, it's almost like a test run that you can decide if it makes sense to have them help with college as well. Okay. We've gotten a lot of questions answered. We're going to wrap up. This has been awesome. I hope this was helpful. Maybe just drop in the chat. Let me know if this was valuable. Please definitely come to the next session. It's going to be amazing. Devery, again, is a former admissions officer at Harvard. So very, very lucky to have her. And yeah, we've paid her so that she could do this session for free for you guys. So we're definitely excited for her to provide this. Glad to hear that the session was valuable. And again, it's just the beginning. Recommendations are just a foundation part of the process. Of course, essays are going to be super important, a lot of the other things. So please tune in. We're excited to have you, and best of luck. This is an exciting time. Super excited for you and excited to be a part of the journey and to have Leland play a role. So thank you guys. Have a great night.